Hello everyone, it's been a while. I know my upload schedule hasn't been the greatest lately. I've been doing this thing called graduating from college. I don't know if you've heard of it. And the past semester took up a lot of my time, more than usual. And usually when I did have free time, I'd be too tired to do anything and would end up just playing Isaac for like 3 hours. I do have a couple videos in the works right now, but those are going to take a while, so consider this a shorter video to fill up the time gap. As you all know from my previous 2 videos, I'm a huge fan of anime DVDs, and I've been collecting them for about 2 years at this point. That means I've amassed a pretty big collection of various shows I enjoy, all from different publishers, time periods, and genres. But you know what's something I find myself saying a lot? Blu-rays fucking suck! I know I've treaded on this a bit in my previous DVD videos, but it's just a fact at this point. You're typically paying egregious amounts of money for what is essentially a blank screen with an episode selector and no special features. Just to put it in perspective, I paid about $25-ish for my Full Metal Panic box set, and that gets you the entire series along with production sketches and posters, which, in comparison to other ADV products, is a little underwhelming, but you get what you pay for. Meanwhile, I went to an FYE not too long ago, and they had the entirety of Chainsaw Man on Blu-ray for $70 fucking dollars. Now, granted, I didn't buy it because I'm not spending $70 on fucking Chainsaw Man, so I don't know what kind of content it had on it, but just going off what I could read on the packaging, this was just the first season with no special features and didn't even include the Reze Arc movie. I'm a huge Chainsaw Man fan. This should have been an instant purchase for me, and yet this is probably one of the biggest turnoffs to a product I've ever had. Why should I pay such an absurd amount for a product that I know is going to be inferior in every way? This has become such an issue for me that I've coined the unofficial term boring DVD menu syndrome. Or Bdms for short, and yeah, I know, it sounds like a very different string of letters, but you know what, it'll make you remember it more. I want to actually show off these DVDs and Blu-rays, as I've mentioned them in previous videos, but haven't really shown why they suck. And maybe try to understand why DVDs have fallen into this pattern of producing bland and sterile-looking DVD menus, while also understanding what it takes to improve them. So we need an example, and what better place to start with than something people are already familiar with.
Yo, I'm fucking R2-D2!
Now, I've specifically talked about the ADV release in my previous video, but I'm also using this as an excuse to talk about the G-Kids release. I'd pick an example I haven't done before, but this is literally the only 2 shows that I own doubles of.
I even have doubles. What? I have doubles of the
Evangelion. Since we don't really need to go super in-depth on the ADV version, I'll just give you the basic rundown of why this is a good release. The ADV release of Evangelion has animated menus that fit the aesthetic of the show, recreating the look of Nerve's control center, and also includes atmospheric music that sets the tone for the show, which is especially fitting as these are some of the darker episodes of the series. I also think it's very important to acknowledge the use of sub-menus. It uses those to its advantage to add more animation and make the menu feel a lot more lively. The G-Kids release comparatively goes for a completely different visual style, trying to recreate the feeling of the end credits with these underwater visuals. This isn't even a bad example, as there's an effort to try to emulate the style of Evangelion, but it kind of falls flat once you start navigating the menus. What the fuck is this? For some reason, these Blu-ray releases opt for pop-up menus rather than sub-menus, which I've always found extremely ugly. It feels so effortless and takes away from the charm of older releases. Many of them having cool transitions and sub-menus, which would get the audience immersed in the show that they're watching. Ultimately, I can't even dog on this release too much, as they actually provide you with a plethora of bonus content. There's TV spots, music videos, deleted scenes, animatics, the works. Everything I would want from a DVD release and more. It's just a shame the presentation holds it back, but like I said, this isn't even a bad example. It somehow gets worse from here. Like Ms. Kobayashi's Dragon Maid!
That just makes me damn sick.
Let's pop in my Blu-ray and... I mean, what do you want me to say?
It's awful.
The oldest modern anime release I own is like Sailor Moon, and that's from 2015, and I'd say about 90% of them follow this exact format. White background, stock PNG of the character, logo, and whatever combination of options they want to include. It's honestly infuriating, And hey, guess what? More pop-up menus. They don't even give you a scene selection anymore. It's just skip through the episodes until you find the part that you want. This is why Blu-rays get nothing more than a passing mention in my DVD videos, because there is literally nothing to talk about. You get the anime, and that's about it. Oh, and God forbid it's a Funimation release, because you have to deal with the fact that every time you want to watch that show, they throw in these literally unskippable advertisements into every one of their releases. I collect DVDs to get away from unskippable ads, and somehow they've still found their way into my life. Except you, NHK. I'd literally die for you in Food Rain. At this point, it's not even worth the increased visual quality of Blu-rays, because I'm gonna be so for real, they all look exactly the fucking same. Give or take a bit of pixelation on the DVDs. Okay. I think I need one more example after this. So, recently I picked this up. Ultra Maiden UFO Valkyrie, and I think it's the most 2000s anime I've ever watched, but that's a story for another day. This is under Funimation's Save line of DVDs, which stands for Super Amazing Value Edition and puts this ugly-ass banner on the cover. Think of it like PlayStation's Greatest Hits or Nintendo's Player Choice, but for DVDs. I think these releases are just Funimation trying to clean out extra stock, as mostly I see these logos plastered on literal hentai. As much as I hate this release because this is an ADV-produced dub, meaning they took something beautiful and desecrated its fucking corpse, I really think that these Bdms releases should aim to be more of a cheaper alternative to more expensive DVD releases, as seen with this line of DVDs. I paid about $15-ish for this, and all you get in this release is the show and the intro and outro, which is definitely what you pay for. But like I said in my earlier rant, that just doesn't happen. Now that we have a couple examples under our belt, I think it's time we look at why these DVD menus are designed the way they are. I think it really comes down to three factors: resources, advertising, and changing times. And yeah, I know that last one sounds stupid, but I couldn't think of anything else. The most interesting aspect being the resources part, so I'll start there first. Something I've noticed over the years is that many DVD menus, even in their prime, seem to be an afterthought. A means to an end, if you will. Typically, DVD menus are done in a lot more cheaply way than you would think, often reusing assets already provided to them by the show. Azumanga Daioh reuses backgrounds from the intro, Panty Pony Dash spins around a PNG of Himeko, Full Metal Panic uses walking chibis from the outro. Even in a release like Excel Saga, which goes crazy with their menus, doesn't take the time to reanimate the television segment from Volume 3. They just have the English voice actors dub over it. Heck, the Volume 1 DVD's menus are literally just reused assets from the dating sim episode. Most of the time, if assets are created for the DVD, they're usually very simple and typically come down to either fonts or inconsequential assets. Most common I see are chalkboards or digital interfaces. Full Metal Panic is a good example of this, as it uses these moving panels for its menus. There's not really anything connecting this to the show, but it still fits with the metallic military feeling. Strangely enough, though, they reuse this format in Fumofu, despite the fact that that show cuts out the mecha aspect entirely. What I'm basically trying to say here is that the DVD making process is essentially like Gary's Mod. You're given a set amount of assets to work with, as well as a few limited tools that you can use to aid in your creative process. And while you could make your own assets, that would take up a lot of time and effort that you just don't have. Now, unfortunately, this creates another question. If they're just reusing assets, then why don't modern releases just do that too? Well, to a lesser extent they do, just without any of the charm or fun of the older releases. Ultimately, I think it has to do with limited disc size. Blu-ray releases seem to be more obsessed with cramming whole shows into one release to take up as little shelf space as possible. Meanwhile, back in the day, you'd have around 4 to 10 volumes spread out through a release. It makes sense that the Blu-ray would want to cram as much of the show in as possible, and that means having to sacrifice an aspect of the disc that is ultimately an afterthought in this day and age, especially with the focus on high-quality 4K picture. Meanwhile, earlier releases would likely have storage left over that couldn't be dedicated to adding new episodes, so you might as well put that time and effort into other aspects to get the most out of it. It reminds me of how when I work with blank VHS tapes, I often run into a common issue where either I have too much footage to fill up the tape or too little, the latter leading to empty space on the tape that just isn't being used. DigiChart, for example, is only 1 hour and 30 in its runtime, and the tape can record for over 2 hours. So usually I just throw some random bullshit in there just to fill up the space. I'd like to imagine that's what they're doing here. I also think it's important to understand the landscape of advertising during the 2000s. ADV had already been around for a long time and started out selling VHS tapes, which means they lived in a pre-internet dominated world. And as a wise internet donkey once said,
I have
Elfin lied
instead of
Azumanga Daioh.
cool box art.
And I'm a firm believer that DVD menus are the same case here.
Sell me this.
How do you get someone who's never watched an anime before interested in a show? You do it by immersing them into the world and its characters. DVD menus in the 2000s attacked on two fronts by getting the person watching the show accustomed to the type of media they will be engaging with, while also giving that same person a connection to the series after finishing it. They can pick out Easter eggs and references in the menus which make them feel part of the clique now and like they get it, and can appreciate it more than before. To put it into less jargon, the DVD menu immerses its viewers into the content they are about to watch while setting expectations for them. These shows are going to make you laugh, while these shows are serious and should be treated with respect. Modern DVDs just don't have that now. We have streaming sites like Crunchyroll or reviews for anime on YouTube that set our expectations for us. Anime is just more accessible to people in our current year, which means companies are going to think, why should we devote our advertising resources to a product the customer's already probably familiar with?
Open up! It's time for the pill!
Barnacles, I hate the pill.
And that leads me to my final point. The landscape has just changed. Your average consumer can so easily access anime that by the time they go out and buy the product, that being the DVD, they're probably already way more familiar with the source material than any anime fan in the 2000s. When I go out and buy Digi-Char-It on Blu-ray, it's not because I'm curious to learn about it. It's because I already watched it a billion times on YouTube and I want people to know I'm a fan of it. Also, to take an easy pot shot while I'm at it, the adoption of streaming as our main way of consuming content has definitely affected this too. We have access to so much content on our televisions, computers, and game consoles that it's led to physical media not receiving as much attention, and well, why should companies put so much effort into a product if only a select group of people are going to purchase it? They could be diverting their resources to more profitable endeavors, and that's likely why the prices of Blu-rays are so expensive. You're part of a niche demographic that has to take what they can get, and that leads to companies having control of the set price of said product.
He knows it's a scam. He does that. Blink. He is winking at you like, sucker!
Even if it's not a greed thing, which it most likely is, but ignoring that for the moment, DVD and Blu-rays cannot be making enough money for these companies, and they likely have to increase prices to recuperate costs to keep endeavors like this even profitable. Now, I'm not trying to justify these practices, as ultimately, for the most part, they seem to only hurt the consumer by giving them a worse product in every way. What I'm trying to do is attempt to rationalize why these companies make the choices that they do. Now, what can we do about this? I don't really know. This is a very niche thing to be into in the current year. I know plenty of people who collect movies, but anime? I only know like 2 other people who kinda collect them, and the one guy has his priorities set on a 40-year-old man who dresses up like Sakuya and plays guitar. Hi, Pen. Now, while there's not much that I think we can do in regards to the state of the industry, I do want to take the time to give some of my thoughts on how I would remake some of these menus that I hate. You'll have to keep in mind, though, I've majored in film and not graphic design, so... you know.
Graphic design is my passion.
The place I would want to start with would be the 2017 Squid Girl DVD box set. It's not even that this is a terrible release, I just want to talk about it. Also, I can't show too much of the box, as this is in fact owned by my local library, and I'm not too keen on getting doxxed by anybody. Sentai Filmworks actually does a pretty decent job with their DVD releases. I like their Girls Last Tour release, despite the fact that it suffers from Bdms. They actually take the time to emulate the show's style, and even use a couple panels from the manga. The same could be said about Squid Girl. It has really good special features. You got your typical inclusions such as textless openings and endings, to name a few, but it also has OVAs, shorts, and even audio commentary. Not to mention the DVD menus are actually pretty visually appealing despite being only PNGs. I just really like the blue and orange color scheme. It screams summertime vibes. Though, to apply what I've learned through my incessant rambling, how would I fix this release? Personally, I'd double down on the beach vibes. Have the main menu take place at the Lemon Beach House. I feel like you could have something fun with the selection menus, like having it be like different foods or drinks or whatever. Then have the sub-menus take place underwater using backgrounds from the intro. You could even do like a SpongeBob bowl transition or to add some flair to it or whatever, and the options could even be in like bubbles or on sea creatures or something. Another aspect that could be included is how Squid Girl is always just kind of doing dumb shit. There's like a billion gifs of her out just doing whatever. Go the Azumanga Daioh route on this one. Just throw a bunch of looping animations of her doing the most random shit. I think we should also take a look at some of the DVDs I criticized earlier, specifically the Dragon Maid one and its boring-ass DVD menu. I think it's actually on the right track. The menu options are actually in the proper font, and the graphic design attempts to emulate the commercial transitions in the show. So, like, why not double down on that?
I like the fabric patterns they use in the background of these transitions. Why not replace the white background with that? And while you're at it, pull a Full Metal Panic and throw chibi versions of the characters in the menu to give it more life. I also think it would be cool to include sub-menus that could be like PNGs of the different characters' houses, since the main theme of the show is found family, and I feel like that could really drive that point forward. Another idea I had would be reusing footage from the intro. I'm surprised more DVD releases don't do this. I remember as a kid, a lot of menus for kids' movies would just play clips in sequence with the main theme of the film. Most notable example I can think of would be Cars. I feel like playing clips from the show or the intro would be a great way to add more personality to the menu. Hell, the Haruhi Blu-ray release does this in particular, and it's not amazing or anything, but it looks a hell of a lot better than unmoving, unblinking PNGs. I also really want them to include outtakes of the dub as a special feature. Literally, why don't DVD releases do this? There's like a 4-minute long upload of them on YouTube. Just copy and paste that into there.
Cool. Wanna go scissor?
Yes!
God, yes!
I didn't get your message. I like being kicked in the balls.
Finally, Evangelion. Literally just do what ADV did. Like, it looks so nice. It's very atmospheric. Fuck it. If you want to do the fucking Rey outro thing, just put like a spinning PNG of her from the outro. Like, come on, man. It can't be that hard. All in all, this is just my stupid opinion. The whole segment was just pretty much me spitballing whatever came to my head. Really, the only takeaway I think people should get from this video is just don't buy anime Blu-rays. They're overpriced garbage that essentially scam you for what you pay. Now, I understand that some animes don't have DVD releases, and yeah, we can't stay young forever, but have you considered VHS tapes? What the fuck does that even mean?
To infinity and beyond! That actually scared the shit out of me. What the fuck?